Thank you and welcome to another episode of the Ordinary People Podcast where we talk to ordinary people with extraordinary stories. I'm your host, Alan the Great, and today we have another extraordinary guest, a man with 19 years in the corporate world. This man he's also a life coach, and I reference him as a treasure chest filled with information, knowledge, and wisdom. It's an honor to introduce to you Mr. Bruce Dorsey. How you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great, Alan,
Thank you.
and I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share with your listeners today. When you first asked me about doing the podcast, I was really um, feeling like I was just feeling like I needed this. I needed the opportunity. Sometimes in your journey, um, you can get to a point where things really aren't moving like you feel you should that they should and and that's where persistence comes into play and again sometimes the slightest gesture or the slightest opportunity is enough to you know keep the fire burning.
Absolutely.
So this is an excellent opportunity and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for sharing your story with us and trusting your story with us. Like I was saying to my listeners, I'm going to say it again. This man is a treasure chest full of knowledge and wisdom and information. So this is the perfect opportunity if you're trying to start your own business, if you're looking for something to learn, to put you on that right path to success. This is the right opportunity and the person you want to listen to. Before we get into your life as a life coach and your career, your 19 career in the business world, we like to start with some current events. So I gotta ask you your opinion on a hot topic that's been in the news lately. Colin Kaepernick, NFL San Francisco 49ers player, doesn't want to stand for the national anthem, citing his reasons for the police brutality against African Americans and basically the country's approach with oppression of the black youth. As a life coach and as a person, can you give me just your perspective on that? How do you feel about him not standing for the national anthem?
Well, I feel that it's a personal choice.
Hmm.
Um, I think that it's we're in America, and I believe that that's his right. Whether I personally would or would not stand is a side issue.
Right.
But unless the Constitution is changed, I mean that's his right to stand or not to stand um, based on those belief systems. Now, the question I'm thinking of is whether his decision to stand or not stand, how is that going to improve the overall situation that we're in today?
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, you're part of the solution or the problem. I mean, you can make a personal choice, to not stand, but again, what are you actually doing to advance us into making the world a better place?
Absolutely. And one of the things I looked at when I seen it was, I said, okay, you're not standing for the national anthem. Okay, it's not changing the issue. Okay, you created the conversation, but the conversation is wrapped up in controversy now, which kind of like drowns out the cries for help, which is the issue and the matter is with the oppression of black African Americans and with the police force. So now we have an issue that is being kind of pushed down while another issue is raising up. You not standing for the national anthem and your issue with the soldiers. I do agree with his stance, but I don't know personally I would took that stance. I think it's other approaches we could have made and other ways to make your voice heard in the country. But the United States Constitution does give us the right of freedom of speech. Hence the reason we're here having the podcast today, and Mr. Dorsey is sharing this moment with me. And once again, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity and trusting us with your life story. And getting into your life story, 19 years in the corporate world. How did you survive 19 years?
Well, I tell you, Alan, I survived it really out of necessity.
Mm.
Um, and not only necessity, I made a decision that nothing, no one was going to stop me from achieving my dreams, taking care of my family. Um, you know, nothing was gonna stop me from doing that. I mean, I realized that no matter what goes on outside, of no matter what circumstances that's presented to me, I am in control. I control the way I think. I control the way I react to those situations, whether they're negative or positive, and it's about staying focused on whatever it is that's important to you.
Absolutely. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, and we kind of spoke about this before we got into the podcast, was the change in the atmosphere, especially with corporate. When I talk to people when they're looking for job searching, one of the issues they're finding is companies don't want to pay as much, and then it's like not only are companies downsizing, but they're starting to collaborating downsizing, which is limiting the amount of companies that's actually out here and the amount of opportunities. What is your feelings on the fact that companies are now starting to combine and merge them together, creating, I don't want to call it super companies, but creating more financial viable companies where saving money with less employees doing more for less? What are your feelings with the emergence of companies?
Well, first of all, I look at it in this way: companies want to make more and more money while reducing expenses.
Mm.
And they will they will do anything to make sure that their bottom line um, is where they like to see it. They want to make sure that they're going to make sure that they have shareholders and stockholders and everybody to answer to, and they're going to do whatever is needed to ensure that at the end of the day, they satisfy those financial commitments. Now, here's how I feel about the whole situation. Everyone has to make a personal decision
Mm.
on how they want to deal with this. The first thing is that there's no such thing as lack and limitation and lack of opportunity. It appears that way through our physical senses.
Right.
See, the problem is that we stopped creating. We stopped. I mean, we're God-given creators. I mean, we've been given the ability to create and design our world, and there's a lot of distractions that are being thrown with us daily. I mean, distractions in the media. I mean, distractions through family, distractions. It's so many distractions coming at us at one time. You really have to have a strong mind, and you have to be able to use your will to focus and have a sustained focus on the things that are important to you. And I think that, when the news portrays what the companies are doing, what's going on, in the outer world, which you have to observe that,
Mhm.
but you can't be focused on that. Your focus has to be on being a visionary. Your focus has to be on your vision of what you want your life to be. It has to be on creating your ideal world. I mean, and when you focus on lack and limitation, that's what you get.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you got to focus on. I mean, so you have to focus on abundance. You have to be able to have the awareness to be able to see in your mind the opportunity that's in abundance around you.
Absolutely, and creating opportunities. Now, with opportunities, like you said, you have to be able to think and create opportunities. You have to change your mindset from a negative set mindset to a positive, and focus on what you can do to change the circumstances. So, one of the questions wanted to ask you about is, we spoke, and you gave me some knowledge. Like I said, this man is a treasure chest full of wisdom and knowledge. And one of the things you said to me that I have to repeat was, you said Rockefeller and Carnegie, when they are some of the founders of building America, they started out poor, which are the case with most working class people who are not necessarily financially poor, but more closer to the side of being poor than rich. Now, if those people could start off poor and create such valuable wealth, what's stopping an ordinary person, working person, from creating that same opportunity for themselves?
Well, again, we rely a lot on technology nowadays, and technology is a good thing if used properly. But I think one of the main ingredients that those pioneers had at that time, I mean, they knew they knew, whether it's on a conscious or an unconscious level, they knew how to use their God-given faculties
Mm-hmm.
to be able to achieve the things that they want to achieve. You didn't have the distractions, I want to say, as we do now. I mean now, with the video games, with the media.
Twitter,
I mean,
social
just,
media.
you have, it's unbelievable, and people just aren't focused.
Mm,
And here's the other thing, the average person, I'm going to say, does not think. There's a there, there's a saying, and that saying is, 2% of the people think,
mhm,
3% of the people think they think,
mm.
and 95% of the people would rather die than think. Now, the
Wow.
95%, of course, is the herd. It's the sheep. It's the ones that, well, I'm just going to I do what everybody else does.
Right.
Now, the 3% of people who think they think are the ones that confuse mental activity for actually thinking, for sustained thought.
Mm,
You can, and I give you example. People think just because you got mental activity going on when you get up, you brush your teeth, you wash your face, you might get in your car and drive to work or to the store. You think that's thinking.
right.
You do that every day without any conscious thought. The subconscious mind is at
Mm,
work when you do those things.
mm,
Those are habits that you've developed.
right.
I'm talking about sustained thought. That's what the 2%.
Right.
They actually critically think.
Mm, mm,
And the average person does not think because they're so bombarded with, they don't know how to control their mind. They're so bombarded with everything that they have going on a daily basis during a
right.
routine. Think about this, Alan. If people really thought, they wouldn't do half the things they think.
That's
If
true.
they, they would never do some of the things they were thinking. If they were really thinking, they would never do some of the things they do.
It's-
So that in itself is a problem. We do not. Back to your original question, I just think that the founders were able to utilize a lot of their God-given abilities that we aren't using today.
mm. One of the things that I read in a book recently, it's Good Dad, Poor Dad. One of the things the author spoke on was the fact that we all have talents. Everybody has talents. Now, some people's talent might be to write. Some people's talent might be to think or to draw, or not even to do that. Be creative, or to manage. We all have talents. One of the issues is, and when the question, this is going to be formed into a question, why don't people tap into their talents? What do you think is the reason people do not tap into their talents?
Well, well. Again, the problem is that, I talk to a lot of people as a personal development life coach, and there are so many people who don't know what their natural gifts and talents are.
Mm-hmm.
They've never actually took the time to think about it or explore
Right.
what they could possibly be. And I talk to people all the time, and I have a service, and it's called Finding Your Passion. So I
Mm-hmm.
help clients find their passion, find their calling, if you will, find their reason for being,
Mm-hmm.
for existing. And I find that a lot of people don't know what that is, and some people never do figure it out. They never figure it out.
Right.
And the other thing is, when we learn to do something, normally we don't improve upon that skill. Most people, when they learn to do something, they just keep doing it on that level,
Right.
and you have to constantly get better. Um, And there's actually something called the law of compensation.
Okay.
The law of compensation. And the law of compensation actually states that the law of compensation states that the amount of money you earn
Hmm.
is always in direct ratio to one, the need for what you do,
Hmm.
two, your ability to do it, and three, the difficulty there would be in replacing it.
Right.
So, number one, that takes care of itself. I mean, there's probably a great need for what you do. Now, number two, your ability to do it.
Hmm.
If you master number two and increase and keep on working on developing your ability to do it, you'll find that number three takes care of itself.
Right.
And a lot of people want to give. I mean, a lot of people want to get without giving. That's the other thing. A lot of people
Absolutely.
want something for nothing.
Yes, they do. We live in a microwave society, as I always say, where everybody wants it now. Give it to me now, 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 now. And that's why I think the lottery is so big, where it's an issue where people want to be rich right now. But one of the things you spoke to me about previously, and we spoke many times, you said foundation. One of the issues I feel with the lottery is it's not giving yourself an opportunity to build a foundation, not only with the lottery, but with this overnight want of success and give me now. You're not building a foundation, so ultimately you're building your home on quicksand. It's just a matter of time before it sinks. But what I wanted to talk to you about was also the fact that you are a life coach. The fact that you decided to be a life coach kind of tells me, and with the conversation I had with you, is that you were able to tap into that talent and you realize the talent you have. What made you what what made you realize that this is a talent you had and inspired you to actually tap into it?
Well, it took me almost 40 years to discover what it is that I was created to do. I've had multiple businesses. I started my first company when I guess I was somewhere around the neighborhood of 26, 27. And I had a good job. I was building car seats for a company that supplied General Motors,
Hmm.
and I spent like 9 years at the company, and the company closed down. And at that particular time, I had a lot of responsibility at that time. I had bought a home. Um, Within a year prior, I had a daughter that I was actually helping to raise. I had a lot of responsibility back at that time. And so at that particular time, I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship.
Mm.
Um, I liked the job that I was doing, building car seats for the General Motor plant. And what I did was I tried to get a job. I put in applications. I mean, I did the best I could and even applied to the company that opened up doing what we used to do, because actually the company shut down because another company they bidded and won the bid to build the seats at a cheaper price,
Mm.
to General Motors.
Right.
So I actually even applied at that company, and nobody would hire me. I mean, they wouldn't hire me. They would say, "I'll call you," and I never heard from them again. It was really a challenging time. I mean, I was broke. Um, and After a while, it's a process. After you get to a point where you just don't know what to do. You feel helpless. You get depressed, and there was a profound moment that I had, and I said, you know what, Bruce? I said, you're either gonna give up, disappoint disappoint your daughter, and those around you. You're going to lose your house, and you're either going to just give up, or you're going to start using your mind and think. If nobody will give you a job, then you're going to have to create one.
Mm.
And that's when I think that's my first experience with realizing that I really could create my future and create something for myself. So I started thinking, well, what kind of services can you offer? I mean, what can you do? Can you do anything that somebody would be willing to pay for.
Right.
Is there anything that you can do? And so I like working with my hands.
Hmm.
I had some experience with landscaping, with planting flowers and mulch and stone and that type of thing. I had some experience. I was good at that, and but I didn't really. But I was broke. I didn't have any money. But because I had a house,
Hmm.
I'd had a few tools, a garden rake, a
Right.
shovel. I had, only had one, but
Right.
I had a few tools.
Right.
And I said, that's all you need to get started. You need your basic household tools. And so I created a contracting company. I had a pickup truck. So I started thinking of services that people would need. I mean, I start thinking about basement cleanouts and appliance delivery.
Hmm.
And so I delivered washers and dryers. I had another friend who worked with me who was also out of a job,
Hmm.
and he had a pickup truck. So we'd combine
Hmm.
forces, and we would actually work on jobs together. We'd help each other delivering washers, dryers, and it's funny because I had very little. I was broke. Um, I just started doing one job that led to another job and another job, and I got to a point where I got busy, and I had to bring on another person, and when I closed that company down, I ended up with a couple tractors and some other tools,
Wow.
and I had the experience of actually hiring somebody, and
Hmm.
I mean, now when I stopped the business, I took a job for DuPont,
Okay.
and once you get a taste of owning your own company, for the average person, they're never the same after that.
Right.
They're never satisfied working for somebody else again, and it's because it's a certain amount of self confidence, it's a certain amount of pride, it's a certain amount of feeling that listen, I'm in control of my destiny.
Right.
Nobody can fire me without my permission, and I'm not going to wake up in the morning and fire myself.
Absolutely.
So you get into a certain ownership, a certain personal empowerment
Hmm.
that's involved. So I worked at DuPont, and I began thinking about my next business venture.
Hmm.
And the reason I had to close the contracting company down was that I was doing pretty good, but I know that the DuPont job would allow me to it would allow me to get myself on more of a solid foundation so that I could do more. And then
Hmm.
the other thing was DuPont was a rotating shift
Right.
at that time, and I couldn't keep my customer commitments working that type of schedule.
Right.
And so I would rather let my customers know that I would be closing down on good terms.
Right.
And then later on, if I decide to reopen, then I could go back to those customers than to get in a situation where I'm making promises to customers that I can't keep, thus destroying my reputation. So in any event, to basically get right to the chase, I kind of going about the story in a long roundabout way. But to answer your question, it was just as I worked different businesses, as I created different businesses, I started reflecting and looking at myself. Every time I entered into a business, every time I created a business, even if I enjoyed that business, I still didn't feel the completeness. I still didn't feel um, that I still didn't feel that was um, why I was really meant to be here.
Hmm.
And again, as I created different businesses, I was still thinking,
Hmm.
what is it? What is it? Now, the last company that I had before I was a life coach was a landscaping company,
Hmm.
and I loved doing that. I mean, I like creating things, making things look beautiful, flowers, mulch, stone, design. I like that. But again, I'm looking in the mirror. I'm assessing myself.
Mm.
Although I enjoy this type of work, that still wasn't it.
Right.
And I would talk to people. What is it you think I'm good at? I mean, is it do I strike you as being, what is it that you see me that I do naturally that's great? What do you see me doing? And a lot of people were saying, motivational speaking. You're very inspiring. I see the way you light up when you talk to other people about their goals and
Right.
their dreams.
Right.
So I talk to a lot of other people. I search myself for and actually what they call it is finding your area of excellence is another thing that
Right.
some might refer to finding your passion as. But that's what it was. It required years of self-reflection, and then I finally realized that what that's what that's what it is. It's personal development. It's helping people transform their lives from the inside out.
Absolutely.
Now, in the interest of time, that's the short version. I mean, there were some other things involved, but in the interest of time, that's kind of it in a nutshell. It took a lot of self-reflection, a lot of talking to other people
Hmm.
to discover exactly what those talents were.
You were able to build your foundation. Like you said, one of the interesting things I want to point out that you said was the fact that you made the decision to shut down your personal business and take on more of the DuPont job and put your focus in that. And one of the interesting things I think that stood out from that was that you said the key word there, foundation. You knew that DuPont would give you the stronger foundation to build on. And that was just incredible how when the story progressed, you talk about talking to people, and you didn't know at the time of going to DuPont that you wanted to be a life coach, but you knew that you needed that strong foundation to build whatever was ahead of you. And that's incredible, and that definitely highlights the ability to think and something that people do. Another thing I think that was interesting I have to speak on is the fact that you took tools that you had in your house to create a business. There's so many people right now that's out of work, and I talk to people often, and one of the things they say is, I want to create a daycare. I want to open a store, and there's always the but. But I don't have enough money. But I don't have enough space. In your story, I didn't get a but in your situation. My question is to you, how did you get beyond the but with doing the landscaping business or even becoming a life coach? How did you get past that but that everybody gets hung up on?
Well, I think just really looking at it, whenever you attempt to do anything of great magnitude, you have to have a deep, burning desire.
Mm.
Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich speaks about desire being the starting point of all achievement. You have to have it has to be so important. I mean, it has to be so. I mean, the desire has to be so deep and burning inside you where that's what you think about when you wake up. That's when you think about when you go to bed.
Mm.
And again, it's a shift in perspective. You have to concentrate on what you do have,
Mhm.
not what you don't have. Now, you can observe what you don't have, but
Right.
your concentration, your focus, your energy, you have to be grateful for what you do have. You have to concentrate and use what you do have. And the other thing is you have to collaborate and work together with others. So you have to leverage other people, their finances, their skills, so that you can win together. Here's the other thing too. When you talked about the money piece, how someone may say, "Well, I want to do this, but I don't have the money." I talk to a lot of people also, and some say that to me. But you know what? If you gave them the money to start whatever business they want to start, if you gave them the money, they wouldn't know where to begin.
Mm.
So I guess what I'm saying is that before you ever get the money, first you need to have a plan.
Absolutely.
And a lot of them, they don't even have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to start with a plan. And once you have a plan and you focus and do what you need to do, you'll attract the funding.
Absolutely.
And but a lot of people, I find, they do not have a plan. So you could give them, they could say, I would say, well, listen, how much do you need to start that daycare?
Right.
Well, I need about 10 grand.
Right.
Okay, well, then what you gonna do? Then what are you gonna do with the 10 grand?
Absolutely.
And now they don't know what to say.
Yeah, they're froze because
They haven't.
there's no more excuses.
Right, they have not planned properly. So you have to, again, you have to do your homework. You have to have a plan, and then again, your vision, your faith, and you'll attract those finances that you need. You'll attract everything you need to be able to get what you want. And the way the universe works is you won't even, it'll come together without you even realizing what's really going on. You just
Right.
concentrate on doing your part, and you'll start to see things move. You'll start to see things move,
Right.
and for your good.
Absolutely.
Like energy attracts like energy. And what you focus on, you attract. So, a lot of people wish positive and think negative. They
Mm.
pray, they get on their knees and they pray, and they pray to God for the things that they want or that they need. But when they go into prayer, they have doubts. They really don't believe that they're going to get what they're asking for,
Right.
and it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
It doesn't. You have to have faith in order to connect
Mhm.
with God. You have to have faith.
Right.
And again, you can't pray for something and think negative.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you just said there. I think it was Martin Luther King that said, "Faith is taking the first step without seeing the stairwell." So I think faith is absolutely important in situations. And one of the things I always say is, the analogy I always use is to people who don't have a plan is, think about this: how often do you get in a car and not have a destination? If you get in a car, you don't have a destination, where do you end up? You're not going anywhere. You end up driving around, and eventually you're going to run out of gas. So you got to think about that. When you get in a car, you have a destination, and it has to be the same course for life. That you have to have a destination already a destination planned out, and then have a map to help get yourself there. So it all goes back to that simple thing: sitting down, thinking. I'm sorry. You want to? I see you
yeah,
want to
yeah,
jump in
yeah,
on
yeah,
that.
yeah. I was actually thinking about. That's why decision
Hmm.
is so important. Making a definite decision. And actually, Napoleon Hill talks about decision in his book too. The average person, and I'm going to say average,
Hmm.
does not know how to make a firm decision and commit to that decision.
Right.
And again, like you said, if you don't know how to make a decision, you're always in a state of limbo.
Right.
It's almost like you're swaying in the wind back
Mhm.
and forth.
Hmm.
Now once you make a concrete decision, right away you flip your brain on another frequency.
Right.
Right away you start your mind will begin to think of reasons, think of ways to help you
Hmm.
be able to do whatever it is you decided on doing.
Right.
So, but again, when you talk to the average person, you'll say, just for example, what is it you'd like to do in the next few years?
Mm.
Or you can, and a lot of times you'll hear responses as, well, if I have the money, then I will go back to school. If I have good health, I will start working out.
Right.
It's always, their decisions always depend on some kind of external factor
Hmm.
that allows them to do so. You very seldom hear somebody say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Don't know how,
Right.
but I'm going to do it.
Absolutely.
Listen, not I'll buy a house if my job doesn't shut down. I'll
Right.
buy a house if I get the perfect job. I'll buy a house if some other circumstance presents itself.
Right.
Um, George Bernard Shaw has a saying. He said, "I don't believe in circumstances."
Mm.
He said, "People are always blaming circumstances for
Mm.
what they are."
Yes.
He said, "The people who get on in this world are the ones that get up, look for the circumstances that they want to see,
Mm-hmm.
and if they can't find them, they make them."
Right.
So you have to say, you know what? I'm gonna buy the house.
Absolutely.
May not know how,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it by whatever time period that you feel that you can achieve that goal. But you have to be firm, you have to be focused, you have to be determined, persistent, and you have to be it has to be definite.
Absolutely.
Um, so I think decision is crucial.
Absolutely. Determination and persistence is two keys to success, and I think anybody listening to this podcast right now should listen to that and take note of that. Persistence and determinations are just two keys to success. I want to go back to my car analogy, and I'm going to form this to a question. One of the things I say to people is, if you keep looking at life through your rearview mirror, you tend to crash. Hence the reason when you're driving the car, yes, we all glance in our rearview mirror to see what's behind us. Rarely do we drive to a destination while solely focusing on just our rearview mirror. However, in life, we do the exact opposite. In life, we focus so much on our past and we never look at what's in front of us. Do you think, and how do you think that too many people do that? And the question I have to ask you is, how did you not get caught into stuck looking into your rearview mirror? And the reason I'm asking you that is because, like you said, you struggled in trying to get back into the corporate world after losing your job with the GMC contract. You had your own business. Easily said, you could have said, you know what? I don't want to go DuPont, because staring at a rearview mirror, what you were seeing was the aftermath of the GMC contract debacle and how that had such a profound effect on your life. And you could have focused on that and turned down DuPont. How did you not get stuck looking at rearview mirror?
Well, one of the most important things, and it's actually one of the components I have in a course that I've created that it'll be an e-course online, and it'll be available very soon. But one of the components is called being honest with yourself, and I think that that's crucial from the very beginning. You have to, I think, self-reflection is the key. Being honest with yourself, staying in tune with yourself, your thoughts. And example, you can't. I give you an example with that particular situation when the car plant shut down or the car seat plant shut down. I had to be honest about how that made me feel.
Mm.
How did this experience make you feel? What are you going to do now? You have to really stay in tune with your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And if it makes you feel scared, then you have to acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you don't know what to do at this point, you have to acknowledge that too. But I think one thing that's always been present in my life is my spiritual foundation. I was raised in the Baptist church,
Okay.
and I was raised in the Baptist church. I also have studied other religions. I used to be a practicing Muslim also. I studied again under the Christian faith. The studied a little bit on the Jehovah's Witness faith. I've always, regardless of which religion I chose to study or follow, God was always a strong presence in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in my case, looking back, I think because there was a necessity to be able to survive,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't spend too much time dwelling on what was. I mean, I had to look at it. I had to acknowledge it. I had to look at how, it was making me think and feel. And
Hmm.
I mean, but once I worked through all of that,
Right.
because of my necessity to be able to survive and to be able to provide for um, my daughter, and because I had a mortgage to pay and all these other responsibilities, I couldn't spend too much time waddling
Right.
in that experience. I just couldn't afford to do that.
Absolutely.
I mean, and it was times where I didn't know where. I mean, I didn't know how I was going to come up with the money to do to be able to survive and to be able to acquire the money I needed to be able to pay the next bill. But I knew I would.
Absolutely.
And again, I also was grateful for the things that I already had. There's that's crucial. Um, the more you're grateful for what you have, by law, the more you get more things to be grateful for.
Right.
There are definite laws that govern this universe, God's laws, and no man or woman can deviate from those laws. Hence the law of polarity,
Right.
the law of opposites.
Right.
You can't have an up without a down, an in without an out, a good without a bad. And all of those things are natural laws, and so is like attracts like.
Hmm.
The kind of energy you put out into the into the universe is
Hmm.
what you draw back in, whether it be negative energy, positive energy. That's you control all of that.
Right.
And it starts with the way you think. So I think we have to get back to basics, and we have to start teaching our children that you have everything that you need within to be able to be, do, and have anything that you desire. You have that.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of you um, understanding understanding what you have, recognizing what you have, understanding it, and developing it, and then connecting to that higher power, or whatever you call God. No
Absolutely.
matter what it is you call your higher power, uh, you know, that's then that's what it's going to take. You know.
Absolutely.
And I hope I answered your question.
No,
I
you
know
did. You
sometimes I
did. You
kind of
did.
get, sometimes I got so much I want to give and
Right.
share.
Right.
Sometimes I might kind of go off course a
No,
little
no,
bit,
no.
but
You're fine. You're
yeah.
fine. You're definitely fine. I want to touch on something you said. Honesty. I wanted to. Reason I wanted to touch on the word honesty is because I know we had. Once again, we had a lot of conversations by the way. So if I keep saying audience, if I keep saying we had a conversation about something, it's because we talk so much about things outside just the podcast. And one of the things we talked about was honesty. And I remember I said to you, one of the hardest things for people to do is be honest with themselves. That I can look you up and down, tell you everything about you that you need to change, should change, and what's wrong with you. But the hardest thing in my life to do is to turn around, look in the mirror, and self-assess myself. So once again, I want to give you all the credit and the props to be able to be honest with yourself, and we all should have that quality, and that's a key ingredient once again to success, to be honest with ourselves and not only look at other person and tell them what they need to change about themselves, but look at yourself and figure out what you need to change. With that being said, I want to talk about something that I had to cut you off with right before we had the podcast started, and I said, hold on, hold that thought. We cannot talk
Right.
about this until you get on the
Yeah.
microphone because there's an interesting thing. The direction the country is going, and you said this country is in big trouble. Can you elaborate more on that? And what did you mean by this country is heading in a bad direction and we're in big trouble?
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at this thing from several different, on several different, with several different perspective, um, and and also in many different areas. For instance, our school system.
Hmm.
I'm not happy at all with the school system. I think it needs to be revamped. I think that we are Some things I think is great that we're teaching our kids, but we there's so much more that we could be doing to prepare them to be able to really achieve the greatness that they deserve. To be able to really make things happen, not only for themselves, but also to be great contributors to humanity. And
Right.
I just, so I mean, that's one area, the educational piece.
Hmm.
But the other area is you know, uh, finances. That's another area. I mean, we
Hmm.
are. Some might say we're on the verge of a financial collapse. Our debt is our the United States. Our debt is in the trillions, and it's. I mean, and it's. I tell you, we're and really. Um, I'm not going to really talk too much of that
Right.
on air. We can
Right.
talk.
Right.
We can have an
We talk
off.
about it all
We can
there.
right. We can talk about it off the air because it's
Right.
it's
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 very
right.
deep.
It's
It's deep.
it's really deep.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that inflation's going higher and higher. Jobs are constantly going overseas. You got a lot of big companies that are leaving.
Mm.
I mean, again, because of greed and all these other things. But honestly, again, I think the key is the American people as a whole,
Right.
we have to start loving and caring about each other again. We have to be able to unite and stand together. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care.
Hmm.
Listen, you have to understand that we are all the same.
Absolutely.
We don't want to make enemies out of our law enforcement officials. They're there to protect us. Yes, you have some rotten apples, but you can't let the rotten apples completely spoil the barrel. You have to take each situation accordingly. You have to, we have to develop a better relationship with our law enforcement officials. But I can tell you, from personal experience, you have a lot of good police officers out there. You
Absolutely.
have a lot of police officers that do a lot of great work with mentoring kids and helping citizens.
Mm.
And I know because I've been stopped more times than I could care to tell you. First as a young man, and now as a middle-aged man.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell you, you got some good officers out there.
Right.
But the problem is the media.
Mm.
The media doesn't, um, they don't publicize the great works that the officers do as much as they portray a lot of the negative that the few officers do.
Right.
And if you're a child and all you've ever seen is a police officer in a negative light, whether they've arrested your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your friend's father. If that's all you saw is negative interactions with police officers and people and that's all you've been exposed to, and then you turn on the TV and you're seeing all these mass murders and shootings of some of the few bad officers out there. I mean, then you would every time a police officer approached you or came near you, you'd be running for your life, or
Absolutely. Yeah.
you'd be thinking that you were gonna die today, and that's just not so from my experiences and experience of a lot of other people. I mean, yes, you have incidences, but the other thing is again the energy that you put out there, the way you conduct yourself when you interact with officers. I mean, you let's say I get stopped when I leave this podcast. An
Right.
officer stops me, and one of the first things I'm going to do is be cooperative. I'm going to, let the officer see that I'm not a threat.
Right.
I'm going to, be respectful. Even if he pulled me over for something that I feel like is just completely, unwarranted
Right.
and bogus, that's not the time to fight it.
Right.
You know, at that moment, cooperate with the officer, give him anything, him or her anything she needs. And if I think that it's unwarranted or it's bogus or it's harassment or profiling or whatever, then I'm going to fight it later.
Absolutely.
Later, I can take him all the way to the Supreme Court if I want to. But that's not the right time to
Mhm.
fight it.
Right.
So I think we have to start teaching our children how to behave in circumstances. Now, should we have to do all of that? Well, you should always treat everyone with respect, but should you have to be on that kind of heightened alert?
Right.
I mean, no.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the reality nowadays is that you have so much officers aren't getting the proper training. Some officers, depending on their background, um, they may or may not have had interaction with other races,
Hmm.
and so all of that plays a part into how relaxed, nervous, um, um, you know, uh, that particular officer is, how comfortable they are, and you just have to recognize the fact that, listen, you don't know who you're going to encounter,
Right.
but you just have to be aware of that basically you could have an officer from any walk of life. And here's the other thing we have to understand with our police officers: before he stopped you, we don't know where he came from.
Right.
Maybe he went to a domestic call, and he went to help a wife, and maybe the husband tried to slit his throat or shoot him. I mean, you don't know what situation he came in.
Right.
Now, I know he's supposed to be a professional, but listen, he's a human being.
Absolutely.
I think we just have to. I think we have to support our police officers. We need to hold them accountable. Don't get me wrong, but
Right.
we need to support them. We need to make them. We don't want to make them our enemies. And
Mhm.
and again, I'm gonna go back to what I said before. We have to think.
Right.
I mean,
Right. You're
I just
right.
don't know. Well, listen, we gotta exercise our ability to think,
Right.
and that's crucial. I mean, if again, I see so many things out there, Alan.
Mhm.
We're in trouble on so many fronts with the kids. I mean, they don't have the level of respect
Oh yeah.
that you
Oh
and
yeah. I
I
agree.
do. We're in trouble on a lot of fronts, man. Now, we're definitely, when I grew up. I mean, you're a lot younger than I am, but
Mhm.
people would get involved.
Yeah.
I mean, if they saw if they saw you doing something you shouldn't be doing, or they saw you being disrespectful, or whatever the case may be, they weren't afraid to intervene. Just get in there in a minute. What are you doing, boy? What are you doing down
Right.
there? And but by the same token, they might say, "Come here, we got a piece of pie for you." You know what I mean? Got some
Right.
sticky apples for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Hey, I brought the sticky apple. Hey, I
Right.
got sticky apples for you. But it's again, it just seems like people don't want to get involved.
Absolutely.
And you can't blame that on the mayor, the governor, lieutenant governor,
Right.
your council people and your president. I mean,
Mhm.
you can't blame that on them. Listen, we got to take responsibility.
I agree.
I mean, so that's
Yeah.
that's so it's going to take people getting involved.
I agree. And I want to step in and say something in the matter. From both sides, we have to stop profiling. And let me elaborate on what I mean by stop profiling. When it comes to police officers, do not profile all black males that wear a hoodie or dress a certain way as being a drug dealer, a gangster, or a threat. That's not always the case. Some people learn the culture, and that some people just have a certain way they want to dress. It also works on the other side, where black males and people from these communities don't look at all police officers like as if they're a threat, or if they're some kind of racial term that I'm not going to say on the podcast, but don't look at them as they're all bad. All officers are not bad. There's majority of officers come in there trying to do their job, and it is to serve and protect. Now, do you have a few bad apples when you talk to police? Absolutely, and it's the same in the community. Do you have some bad people who wear hoodies and are out to do mischief and do harm to others? Absolutely, but on both sides, we have to learn how to stop profiling each other. Like you said, Mr. Dorsey, learn to love each other, understand, think about what you're doing, think about your actions and the consequences of your actions. There's more than one way to fight someone, and it always doesn't have to happen with a physical altercation. A lot more Lot wars were settled and won not by a bullet, by a simple conversation. So think about that next time you have an issue with somebody. It don't always have to end with the shot of a gun. So moving forward, listen, both sides, let's stop profiling. Stop looking at police as they're always the problem and they're waking up in the morning, putting their uniform on with the intentions of doing something to you. And it works on the other side. Police officers stop thinking that person wakes up, put their shoes on, their jacket, and thinking they're coming out to do bad. It doesn't work on either side. We need to start to come together as a community of people. No matter what race, gender you are, let's come together as people and understand we all are people. And we're never going to all agree on the same thing. We're going to have our disagreements. We're going to feel differently, but at the end of the day, we're all people and we all have emotions. We all were born with a God-given ability to think and make decisions for ourselves. So let's try to make the right decision and take a second to just think about our actions. Key word there, think. Mr. Dorsey, you have a T-shirt on, and before I let you go, I have to ask you about the shirt. You have a shirt for Miss Sherry Dorsey Walker, who's running for lieutenant government of the fine state of Delaware. And this is where this podcast is taking place at now. Now, there's an election coming in September 13th for the Delaware election. Can you elaborate more on why should people go out and vote for Sherry Dorsey Walker for lieutenant government?
Well, thank you, Alan. Thank you actually for bringing this subject up. Sherry, I can't think of enough great and wonderful things to say about Sherry. But there's one thing that there's one slogan that really sums it all up that myself and others call her, and that is the people's champion. Sherry's the people's champion, not, and when I say people, I mean people of all races and genders and nationalities. Whether you're Polish, Irish, African American,
Yes.
white, Italian, whatever it is, she's for all people. And and Sherry, the integrity. Sherry has integrity. I mean, she can't be bought. She's not concerned with power and privilege and prestige. I mean, she wants to truly make a difference for all people. And she has a slogan. We have a slogan. I'm actually a part of Sherry's campaign. The slogan's called "Together We Win." Together we win. A lot of candidates talk about I. It's not about I. It's about we. You can't get anything done unless it's we. And Sherry, I mean, it's one of these. I just can't think of enough good things to say about her. But Sherry, she believes in community. She believes. I mean, she loves our kids, our babies. I mean, she has that ability. Sherry has that ability to be able to bring people together of all people of all races. I mean, from kids in a sandbox on up through teens. Making sure from mentoring teens, bringing teens together, all the way up through to her constituents, the adults. I mean, right now she's city councilwoman for the 6th district in Wilmington, Delaware, and she's done so much great work in her community. And here's another thing I want to point out quickly about Sherry that's very important. She's one of these exceptional leaders, and that Sherry has actually she knew that she was going to be going on to serve in a in a bigger capacity, in a broader constituent base. As she left the council woman for the 6th district, and now going on to be the lieutenant governor. She started grooming the president of the Civic Association in her district, to Miss Heather Taylor, to basically take her to actually take the baton,
Right.
and be able to continue the great work that they were doing in her district. And so that's the mark of a true leader, that before they before they actually transition
Right.
into another position, they make sure they pass the baton and bring an upcoming leader up to basically carry on their great work.
Hmm.
And Sherry has done that. She's doing that, and so that shows right there her heart is in service. It's
Right.
it's in people. So I tell you, you have to people vote Sherry Dorsey Walker for lieutenant governor. You won't be disappointed. Sherry has an open door policy. You know, she needs you, but she needs you. So whatever it is that you need, whatever issues you have, um, uh, whatever resources you need, whatever it is that you need, talk to her. Make an appointment to see her. She has an open door policy. She needs you. She wants to take your hand. Her hand is extended. She wants to take your hand, and she wants to work with you to work your situations out. Together we win. That's the motto. Together we win. So on September 13th, um, vote Sherry Dorsey Walker for lieutenant governor. And by the way, this is Delaware.
Right.
So
So sorry if you in California.
right,
This
right.
is not for
Yeah,
you.
it's-
Just for the members of Delaware, state of Delaware, please get out there and vote September 13th. Miss Sherry Dorsey Walker. Once again, I want to thank you, Mr. Dorsey, for giving us your time, for sharing and trusting the Ordinary People podcast with your story, your incredible, extraordinary story. I want to thank you for your time. Before you go, though, can you please give the people your information? So where can they find you? And if they want to sign up for you to be their life coach, for you to give their life direction and help build them from the inside out, how would they get in contact with you?
First of all, you can go to my website, and that website is www.co-create-life-coaching.org. That's www.co-create-life-coaching.org. And you can go on the website. If you sign up to be a member, it's free. You get a free gift, and that free gift is it's a 5-lesson e-course. It's a short 5-lesson e-course. You get and it's on persistence, and you get a PDF file, and you get an audio for each lesson. So you can see the services that I offer, and the prices, and just and that will give you an idea of exactly how I can serve you. You can email me at dorseyba@aol.com. That's DORSEY, B as in boy, A as in apple, at AOL.com. And I would love to work with you. I mean, you can do it. You have to make a decision and know that you can do it. And because I can't, I can't do that for you, but I'm welcoming you. I got my hand out, so so I'm just waiting on you to take it. And I really have a love and a passion for this, and and thank you, Alan the Great. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to really give. And I look forward to if you'll have me back on at another time, perhaps in a co-host manner, or if you would allow me to come back just to just to talk and share more with the listeners. I greatly appreciate that.
That's no problem. And trust and believe you're going to definitely hear from Mr. Walker very soon, as I have other things in mind that I want to discuss with him off the air, and it will be brought to your attention soon enough. You will see it. And like I said, get used to his voice, because you'll be hearing him much more often on the Ordinary People podcast, maybe as a co-host, or you never know what I have up my sleeve. With that being said, I want to thank you again for your time, and once again for your extraordinary story. And this is the Ordinary People Podcast, where we talk to people with extraordinary story. What I want to leave you with is remember, build your foundation. Would you rather buy a house that was built in 8 days, or would you rather buy a house that was built in 8 months? Just take the time. Don't answer that question yet. Just think about it. Think about what does that mean. Think about what does that mean for your future, and what are the effects of that. The word of the day is the word that you can take from this podcast is the word think. Take time to think about what that means and how the impact that will have on your life. I'm going to have Mr. Dorsey's information all in the description tab of the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube at my channel, Alan the Great. Once again, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, Alan the Great, to check out not only this incredible podcast, but other extraordinary podcasts. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Dorsey, for your time. And get used to hearing this man's voice, because he'll be back in some other form or fashion very soon. Once again, it's the Ordinary People Podcast. I want to thank you for listening, where we talk to extraordinary people with extraordinary stories. Peace out.